For your drafting assignment, you are to create a full package drawing for the motor base assembly. So here we have an exploded view. We have a top assembly, smaller assemblies, and then we have detailed drawings of the individual parts, the base, the bracket, the support. We have the shaft and the knuckles. You do not create drawings of the hardware. In the good old days before online and 3D modeling, we would have to provide a drawing, a sheet, a final sheet with all the bolts, nuts, and washers. But now, since everything is standardized and online and on catalogs, we just call it on the parts list without having to create a drawing for the loose hardware, bolts, nuts, and washers. All right, so this will be worth 200 points. If you want, you can also, instead of the motor base, you can create a drawing of the clamp assembly instead, but you will only get up to 150 points max. Let's go to CATIA. So once again, if you choose to create a drawing of this assembly, you can only get 150 points max out of 200. So in this video, I'm going to go over creating the drawing package for the motor base assembly. Okay, so we're going to start by creating an exploded view. If you go back to the original handout for the motor base assembly, here's the complete assembly, sub-assemblies, and we have an exploded view. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to create an exploded view first, and we'll start this as our first page with our parts list, or bill of material, also referred to as the BOM. In an exploded view, the reason we do it is so that we can easily see the hardware, the small pieces, and also the large pieces. So that's the reason for the exploded view. It's a lot tougher to see all the small items in an assembly when it's assembled. But when you do an exploded view, it's a lot easier to see all the components. All right, so let's go ahead and take the motor base assembly and create an exploded view. Okay, you're going to look for the scenes toolbar. Make sure you are in the assembly workbench. If you're not in the assembly workbench, double click at the top of the assembly and make sure you go into the assembly design workbench. Okay, now my scenes toolbar, earlier I had to dig it out of this corner. Couldn't find my scenes toolbar, so if you don't see it, the scenes toolbar most likely is buried in the corner here, and just grab the handle to dig it out. I'm going to hit shift key so I can change the orientation to horizontal. So you just keep digging toolbars out until you find the one that you need. You can always make another row of toolbars if you like, or I can just double click and it'll send it back down, bury them in the corner. Okay, so this toolbar will create what's referred to as a scene, just like a movie scene. If you don't see this toolbar, right click on any icon and make sure there's a check mark next to scenes. If you don't see one, then click on it and it'll load the toolbar. Most likely it'll bury it in the corner, so you may have to dig it out. Okay, so we're going to create an exploded view. Okay, so we're going to go to scenes and you're going to see the background turn green. And also here in applications, it'll load a branch for scenes. First thing we have to do is name it. So let's go to scenes. If you want to name it, you can deactivate automatic name and call it exploded view if you like. I'll just go with automatic naming and hit OK. As you can see, the background is now green, letting me know I'm inside of a scene. To exit, just like exiting Sketcher, here's the exit icon. Okay, and if you go to the tree, the applications, open up the branch, and we have the scenes branch, and we have scene 1, which we are currently in. So this is scene number 1. Okay, so I want you to take the compass and just drop it on the assembly. And don't worry, you can move things freely. This is a scene. It's not going to create any issues with your constraints. You can freely move stuff around in a scene, and then you can always go back to the original assembly. All right, so using the compass, I'm going to hold on to the control key so I can select more than one item. So this one's already selected. I'll select this one too. And this one ignores assemblies, sub-assemblies, constraints. So you're free to move things wherever you want. Okay, let me select the shaft and I'll slide it along. Let's select the knuckle and slide it. Okay, I'm going to take the bolts here. Hold on to the control key, select the bolts. Slide them along. I'm going to select the nuts. Hold on to the control key. So that we have the hex nuts, and I'll do the same with the bolts here. Hold on to the control key to select more than one and translate them. And I'll pick the hex nuts, translate them. Okay, I'm going to take this large bolt and I'm going to go ahead and translate it. Same thing with this one, the one on the right. Should have done them both at the same time. I'm going to take this knuckle. Okay, so we're creating an exploded view for our drawing. Okay, so once you're done moving things around, you can go ahead and exit. If you exit and you want to come back and make some changes, you can always double click on the scene to come back. Okay, I'm going to exit. When I exit, it'll take you back to your assembly and everything in the correct location, as you can see. Let me reset the compass view, reset compass. Okay, so the scene is not permanent. It doesn't affect our assembly. Okay, so feel free in a scene to move things around. It doesn't affect your assembly whatsoever. All right, so that's why we refer to it as a scene. Okay, so now let's go to our drawing. Okay, so we're going to open up the drafting workbench and we're going to start by inserting a title block and border, generating a parts list, and inserting the exploded view. All right, so let's go to drafting workbench. So go to start, mechanical design, go to drafting. And you can follow whatever standard you like. I'm going to follow the ANSI standard, American standard. You can follow the ISO, international standards, or the Japanese standards, JIS standards. Okay, so if you pick the wrong size, maybe later on you want to use a smaller or larger sheet size, it's okay. You can always change it later, hit OK. Okay, so we are in the drafting workbench. Okay, so I'm going to click on the sheet, right click, go to properties, and instead of a B size 11 by 17, I'm going to go with the D. Okay, and notice here we are in third angle projection. If you need to use first angle projection, just select this option. Okay, all of our drawings for this class is third angle projection. And also you can name your sheet up here. Hit OK. All right, so now I'm using a larger sheet. Let me do a zoom fit. Okay, there it is. There's our sheet. Okay, now if you want to insert a title block and border, you need to go into the background. Okay, so let's go to edit, sheet background, and you'll see the background turn gray, letting us know we are in the background. Sheet background, there it is. And this is the area where you're going to add your parts list and your title block and border. Okay, so notice here's the insert title block and border. We didn't have that option before until we went into the background. Okay, so we can insert title block and border from here, this icon, or we can go to insert, drawing, title block and border. And here's our bill of material for our parts list, or BOM, B-O-M, bill of material. All right, so to insert a title block and border or frame and title block, go to this icon. Now here is where you can pick an option as to what style of title block and border you want to use. Now for my computer, when I downloaded CATIA, I didn't download all the documents. Maybe you didn't either. So I don't have an option here to download a title block and border. So here's a screenshot of what it would actually look like. So this is using the computer lab at El Camino College, the computer lab on campus. Here, if you would go to the drop down, it would give you options. So you can create a title block and border. The first option is for apply book. That's if you're doing composites like carbon fiber, and you're doing an apply book on how to lay down the fiberglass sheets to create your part. And if you go to the drop down, you have more options. Okay, so this would be the way to insert title block and border, but I don't have that option. Okay, so what I did is I went ahead and created a title block and border template in the computer lab and saved it as a separate file. So if you don't have the option to insert a title block and border as I do, then use the template, which I'm going to email you. Okay, so check your email for the drawing template. Go ahead and double click on that. So again, if you don't have the option to insert a title block and border, like as I don't, then go ahead and open up this file. Okay, so here's a title block and border that I inserted in the computer lab. Saved it on my flash drive. All right, so the title block and border, notice I can't pick it, I can't grab it unless I go into the sheet background. So I want you to notice that I currently have my new drawing open that I'm creating and the template that I just opened from my flash drive. Okay, so I'm going to go to Edit, Sheet Background. So now I want you to notice that I can select items on the title block now. I can even change the title block. I could just double click. If I want to change any of the information here, I can just double click, change the title, name of the company, etc. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a copy of the background, as you can see, and right click copy or Control C on the keyboard. I'm going to copy. Or if you want, you can copy the entire sheet and bring it into your new drawing. Okay, and I'm going to right click and paste. One thing I did forget to mention, I should have actually gone paste special. The reason is because by pasting, it creates a link between this drawing and your template. So let me hit undo, Control Z. And I'm just going to right click once again. This time I'll do paste special. That way it doesn't create a link between this drawing and my template. Okay. Now if you want to use, I'm going to go back to the template. If you want to go ahead and draw your motor-based assembly on the template, go ahead. Just don't forget to save it with a different name. I'm going to go ahead and close this drawing template. As you can see, I have the drawing template open. You can see it up here. Do you want to save changes? Nope. All right, so now that I have my title block and border, if you want, you can leave it alone. If you want to be more detailed on your drawing and put dates in there and part numbers and maybe company name or your own personal logo, go for it. That's optional. Okay, so another thing you want to do while you're in this background is to insert a bill of material. So there's two options. There's an advanced bill of material and a simple bill of material. Let's do the advanced one first. Okay, so I'm going to click on advanced bill of material. Okay, so if you notice here on the bottom, it's telling me select the product. So I'm going to go to my motor-based assembly. And since I want an entire bill of material for the whole motor base assembly, then I'm going to select the top. Okay, so it takes me back to the drawing. Okay. Okay, so now it's asking me to indicate position. Where do you want it? Yeah, I'll just randomly click in space. I can always move it later. So click in space and it'll give me my bill of material. And if you want, you can move it. You can drag it. Left mouse click, drag it. Typically, you put your bill of material either on the upper right corner or lower bottom right corner. If you don't have room, you can always place it on the left side. Okay, so I'll put it on the bottom right corner. You can make changes to your bill of material that you just generated. Advanced bill of material. You can double click if you want on the actual table, and you can change the size of the columns if you like, as you can see. You can also type in information, right? You can also double click inside. And you can type in. So it's just like a Excel spreadsheet, a simple version of a Excel spreadsheet. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at the next option, which is bill of material. Okay, so I'm going to go to bill of material, click on it. I got to go back and click on my 3D model. So I'm going to go to Window, Motor Base, Top Assembly. Select the top so it selects everything. And click. And then click anywhere on your drawing. I'm going to go ahead and just do it over here to the left, so I don't mix it up with the first one. Click to position it. And see, this gives you a more complete parts list. Gives you your assemblies, part per assembly, parts per assembly, etc. Okay, so here's another option. Okay, so I'll let you do it whichever way you like. If you want to do your own parts list from scratch, you can click on this table. So here's the table option. So you have the option of doing your own table. Hey, let's increase the number of columns, number of rows, hit OK, and then click where you want to position it. Okay, so you do have that option of creating your own bill of material from scratch. You can double click inside the cell and type in whatever you like. Okay, and you can adjust. So you can see you can adjust the size of your columns, column widths. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this table. And I'm going to delete the first bill of material I created. I'll just leave this one over here on the left. Just to make room, I'm going to go ahead and move them over to the upper left corner. All right. All right, so I want you to notice that as I was moving, notice how it's snapping to a grid. If you want, you can turn that off. The snap to point. Let's see if that'll work. It's still snapping. So I can hold on to the shift key so I can have freedom. See, notice if I hold on to the shift key, I have the freedom to move it if I like. Take off my finger off the shift key and it snaps to the grid again. Okay, if you want to remove that snapping permanently, you can go to settings, go to tools, options, my mistake, tools, options, and go into the drafting. Okay, go to mechanical design, drafting. Okay, and look for arrows. So I'm going to look for arrows. Go to the next one, layout, view, generate, geometry, dimension. Okay, so here it is, the move arrow. So look for this arrow. So for dimensions, it's also going to snap. Or you can hit the shift key to freely move it without snapping. I just prefer to turn this off. Okay, so that's one, and there's another one you have to remove. Okay, let me go down the line with the tabs. Okay, this is a zoomable. Let's keep going. Okay, here's the other one. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this snap. Again, you can also hit the shift key. So this is when you're moving text around or tables. Okay, so I'm gonna remove it. And once you remove it, you'll see that you'll be able to freely move your text. So I'm gonna go ahead and move my table without holding onto the shift key. And you can see I'm free to move it. All right, so let's go ahead and insert our exploded view. But before we do, we need to get out of background. So how do you get out of background? So just to emphasize, title block, border, parts list, you want it in the background. Notice how we can select it, we can change things, we can double click on them and make changes if we like. Once we exit the background, we will not be able to make changes. You can always go back to the background if need to make any changes to your text. All right, so I'm gonna go back to working views. Okay, so let's go to the working view layer, so working view. Okay, notice we're no longer in the background. So now if I try and make changes to the text, like the title block, I can't, it will not allow me to make changes. You have to go back to edit sheet background in order to make changes to your text or title block and border. All right, so let's go ahead and insert our exploded view. All right, so we're going to insert a view. So I'm going to go to the drop down here. Now I'm going to go ahead and drag this out. So this is the views toolbar. So I'm going to go ahead and insert an isometric view. Here's isometric view. I'm going to insert an isometric view into my first page. Okay, go to the 3D model. So go to your motor base. Okay, and I want the exploded view. So I'm going to select scene. So I want to do an ISO view of the scene. So click on scene and then select any flat surface to generate the view. So first select the scene, which is the exploded view, and then pick any flat surface or plane for it to generate. And there's my exploded view. Okay. And it also keeps the same orientation that when I exited the view, I had it in this orientation. Okay, so I like what I see, so just click to generate. It'll generate that view. Okay, I'm going to move it over. There's plenty of space over here to the right. Okay, and if you want, go ahead and name it ISO view, exploded view if you like. I'll leave it up to you if you want to change the title of your drawing or of your view. All right, so that's an exploded view. Okay, now we can go ahead and start adding balloons. Okay, so here it didn't give it an item number. Let's go to, okay, so my title block or my bill of material, I should say, didn't generate an items column, so I would have to go ahead and insert a column and call it item 1, 2, 3, and so on. So I would have to go into the sheet background. Okay, so I can double click on this table and I can go ahead and insert a column. So you can see I can insert a column. Then I can say, hey, item. Oh, clicked in the wrong box. Let me exit. And by the way, all this should be in capital letters. It's not generating all capital letters, but typically if you're following the standard, you would use nothing but capital letters. So this would be item 1, item 2, and so on. All right. Okay, so to create our balloons, let's go ahead and go to text. Actually, I'm in the wrong, shouldn't be in the background. I'm going to go into work views to add my balloons. Okay, so once you've updated your table to include item numbers, you can go ahead and start adding balloons. Let's see if I can add a balloon here. Click on this one. And I'm going to click in space. Okay, so this is balloon 1. And this is item 1, as you can see. One thing I do want you to be aware of is that my view here, my ISO view is red. This is active. If I'm adding balloons, make sure this is active or else it's going to add it to the sheet and not the view itself. So when I move my view, the balloon will move with it, as you can see. All right, another option is to use leader with text. That's another option. So I'm going to do the exact same thing, leader with. And I'll call the base plate item number 1. Typically the largest item, you should label it as item number 1 and work your way down to the smaller items. Okay, so once you've added your text, you can add a frame around it. So right-click Properties, and we're going to use a circular frame. So go to Text, and right here where it says Frame, we're going to go with a circular frame. And apply, be able to see it here. So that's another option. Okay, so I'll leave it up to you which way you want to add your balloons. Okay, let me go ahead and delete the second balloon. Okay, so go item 1, 2, and so on. Call this item number 2. Okay. All right, so now if I want to copy the frame from this one to this one, I can use the paintbrush. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, the properties of this one. Click on paintbrush onto this one. Oh, it was the other way around. Let me hit undo. So let's go to the undo button, undo, or Control Z. So I select the one I want to change. I went in the wrong order. Select the one you want to alter. Paintbrush, you want to copy the first one, and there it is. It added the circle as a frame. Okay, so I'll let you finish that on your own. Add all your balloons and add all your items on the list. And just make it look similar to this one. Okay, so that's your exploded view. Okay, so now we're going to insert a new sheet. Go to Insert, Drawing, and Sheet. You cannot do this in the background. You cannot insert a sheet if you're in the background. You have to be in Views. Okay, so go to New Sheet. and it automatically brings in the title block. It brings in the same background as sheet 1. So if we go back to sheet 1, it brings in the exact same background. So let me go into the background. You don't want bill of material twice, so I'm going to have to go in there and delete it. All right, so let's go back to working view. Okay, so now we're going to bring in our assembly views, our top assembly and your smaller assemblies. Okay, so let's go ahead and insert a new isometric view. Okay, go back to your 3D model. All right, so first, you can either position it first. So first, what orientation do you want? So pick the orientation you want. I'll just go with ISO view here. And select any flat surface or plane to generate the view. Give it a few seconds to generate the ISO view, and there it is. And click in space to generate, or click the center of this blue button here. Okay, and go ahead and position your top assembly. If you want, you can go ahead and relabel it top assembly, top motor base assembly. If this view is too large or too small, you can always right-click on the frame, right-click properties. Right-click properties, and you can change the scale. If it's too small, maybe you want to double the scale, 2:1, or maybe if you want a half scale, go 1:2. You can type in ratios, fractions, or decimals. So if you wanted to go with half scale, you can go 1:2, or 1 divided by 2, or 0.5. It'll accept either form. All right, so now let's bring in the smaller assemblies. Okay, so we're going to do ISO view again, isometric view. Let's go to our motor base assembly. Okay, this time you're going to pick which assembly you're going to bring in. Okay, so if we want to bring in the left assembly, here it is, the left hand bracket assembly, left hand, LH is for left hand. Select it and then pick any flat surface. So we're only bringing in the subassembly, the left hand subassembly, as you can see, and click to generate. And if you want, you can go ahead and name it left hand support assembly or bracket assembly. Okay, let's bring in the other ones. So isometric view again. Go to motor base. And this time we're going to pick the right hand. Click on any flat surface to generate your ISO view. Now in this case, since it's a mirror image, if you want, you could have labeled this as left-hand side bracket assembly, and then below it opposite. So it also has an opposite, which is the right-hand side, so you don't have to do a double view of two mirrored images, but either one will work. Okay, and finally, we're going to bring in our shaft assembly. Okay, so ISO view, motor base, and here we have the shaft assembly with the knuckles. Okay, select it, click on any flat surface. Okay, and click in space to generate the view. And if you want, you can go ahead and name it shaft assembly in the title block. Okay, so those are our assemblies. Okay, so now we're going to move to our detail drawings, the individual drawings. I'm going to go ahead and go window vertical so I don't have to be clicking back and forth between the two windows. All right, so let's go ahead and insert a new page. Insert. New sheet. Hopefully it doesn't regenerate. Oh, it keeps regenerating the title block and border. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and delete the background. When you go work for a company, they'll have the sheets already set up so that the first sheet has a full title block and border. And then sheet 2 and on will have a summarized version of the title block. Okay, so I don't have to deal with this having to delete bill of material. I'm going to just copy sheet 3. I'm going to copy it. Go to the top and paste it. And paste. There's sheet 4. I'm going to paste again to create sheet 5. And I don't know if I need more than 5. And paste again for sheet 6. Okay, so there it is. Okay, so let's go to sheet 2. Notice sheet 2 is blue. It's active. Okay, so, we already did sheet 2 with our sub-assemblies and main assembly. Sheet 1 is the exploded view. So let's go to sheet 3 now. Okay, so sheet 3, I'm going to bring in the view of the base. Okay, so if we go back to our PDF file. Okay, so we're going to create a sheet for the base, one for the bracket, support, and then we can combine these into one sheet if we'd like. Okay, so let's go to working view, edit working view. And we're going to go ahead and bring in only the base plate. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create a view. And I only want the base plate. Okay, so click the base plate. There it is. Click it. Notice I'm only selecting one item. If you want to select more than one item, you can hold on to the control key. If you want to select more than one, and then don't forget to click on a flat surface to generate the view. And there it is. There's our front view. And we'll let it generate. Okay, and then from there we can create projected views. Project. And it's going to project off of the view that's red, with the red frame I should say. There it is. This is active. So if we create another projection, go upward, top view. And if we want to create a bottom view, and we can go ahead and throw in dimensions. We'll come back to the dimensions. Let's go ahead and generate the views for the bracket and the support. Okay, so let's go to the next page. So we are in sheet 3. Let's go to sheet 4. And let's go ahead and bring in the bracket. And you don't have to do it exactly like this drawing. I'll leave it up to you if you want extra views. I'm going to send you examples of student work. And everybody did it a little different. So I'm going to be leaning on the grading. If you want to bring in an ISO view, you can go ahead and bring in an ISO view. You know, I'll go ahead and bring in ISO views for the detailed parts. So let me go back to sheet 4. Sheet 3, my mistake, sheet 3. Let's go ahead and bring in an ISO view of the base plate. All right, so we're going to go to the drop down. Go ISO view. Go to your 3D model. I'm only going to select the base. And click any surface to generate our view. Now the ISO view, it doesn't have to be the same scale as your front, top, and side view. If you don't have enough room for all of your views, the one view that you will change in size is the ISO view. Okay, so you can always right-click on the frame, properties, and I'll go ahead and change it from a full scale to half scale. I'll just type in 0.5 and OK, and you'll see my ISO view get smaller. Okay, so your ISO view doesn't have to match the size of your projection views or your front view. It can be a different scale. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next sheet, sheet 4. Double click on sheet 4, or you can just click here on the tab. Okay, so we're going to go to edit. Oh, we are already in the working view. Okay, so let's go ahead and create an ISO view first. And we're only going to select the brackets. So let's go ahead and open the subassembly, open it up, select the left-hand bracket. Notice I only have one item selected. Click on the flat surface and it'll bring in my ISO view. Okay, click to generate. Okay, let's place it up here on the upper right corner. Okay, let's bring in a front view, top view, and side view. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on front view. Typically your front view is the view with the most information. Okay, so once again, let's select the left-hand bracket. Select any planar surface or plane. Okay, I don't like that orientation, so I can use these arrows here to flip it around. As you can see, I can also rotate, as you can see. So you can flip it. Okay, I'll go ahead and pick this orientation and click in space to generate, or click the blue button in the center. Okay, so there's my front view, and I'll go ahead and generate a projection for my top view. And I'll go ahead and do a side view. So I'll project again. So don't forget, it's going to project off of the one with the red frame. If you want to activate one of the other views, all you have to do is simply double click on the frame. And that frame will turn red. So if you do any projections, that'll do it off of the active view, which is the one in red. Okay. We'll come back and do our dimensions. Let's go to sheet 5. And now let's do the support. Okay, let's go from sheet background to working view. And let's insert an ISO view. ISO view. And we'll go ahead and do support, and only the support. There it is. Click on it. And then click on any flat surface to generate the view. In this case, it's going to generate an ISO view. Click in space, it'll generate it. Okay, there it is. All right, so now let's go ahead and bring in our front view. Go to our 3D model, and from the tree only select the support. Click on a flat surface, and it'll generate a preview. And click in space to generate. All right, so now let's do our projections. Let's do a top view. And we'll do a side view. And by the way, it's okay if you have plenty of room on your sheet. It's better to have excess when it comes to room on your page than to have a tight drawing with a small sheet. It's better to have extra space than to put everything in a tight space, like putting furniture in a tight apartment or large furniture in a small apartment. It's better to have extra space. All right, so now let's go to our last page, sheet 6. And in sheet 6, we'll bring in the shaft and the knuckle. All right, so let's go from sheet background to working view. Okay, so now we're going to bring in the shaft and only the shaft. So let's go to the shaft assembly and let's go ahead and open it up. All right, so there's the shaft. Okay, so let's go ahead and create an ISO view. So let's go back to the drawing. When I click on drawing, you'll see my toolbars for drafting pop up. Okay, so let's do ISO view. Okay, so let's select the shaft. Click on shaft. And then click on any flat surface to generate the view. Okay, there it is. And again, we're going to include the shaft and the knuckle on the same page since we have plenty of room. These are small items. Okay, so let's go with our front view of the shaft. Click on shaft. Click on any flat surface. And it'll generate our front view. And we'll go ahead and create a side view. And we should be able to just complete this drawing with a front and a side view and its ISO view. No need to create a top view because it'll end up giving us the same as the front. Okay, so project and create a side view. All right, so let's bring in the knuckle. So let's start with our ISO view. And let's go ahead and pick the knuckle from the tree and click on any flat surface to generate our view. Click. All right, so let's go ahead and create our front view for the knuckle. Okay, and select the knuckle from the tree and any flat surface. It doesn't matter which surface, as long as it's a flat surface or a plane. And click. Actually, I should have picked a different orientation showing the hole. So let me go ahead and redo this over again. I wanted to show the hole. Forgot to rotate it. So let's do a front view again of the knuckle and then select any flat surface. I'll go ahead and rotate it so we can actually see the hole in the cubic area. There it is. Let me rotate it again. There it is. Click to generate. Okay, so I'm done with this 3D model. So I'm going to go ahead and maximize my drawing. Okay, so double click, make sure this is red, and I'm going to go ahead and generate another view. We probably don't need a second view, but let's generate a top view. Probably don't even need this view, maybe just the front and top view is enough. Okay, so, and if you want to scale it up, because we have plenty of room, if you want to scale this to a larger scale, make sure you do it to all three. All right, so let's go back to our drawing. Okay, so the dimensions you see here, you can go ahead and throw in those dimensions on your drawing. It doesn't have to be exact. Okay, so dimensions for this one also, the support, the shaft. Okay, so in this case, yeah, we don't need the top view. If you want to leave the top view for the knuckle, go for it. So we're going to go ahead and throw in some of these dimensions on there. I'm not going to do all of them. I'll just throw in a few dimensions. And I'll let you finish this on your own. All right, so let's go to the base plate. Okay, so let's go ahead and throw in some dimensions in this view. I'm going to double click the front view, so the red frame. So we have the red frame letting us know this is active. Okay, I'm done with this one. So I'm going to go ahead and dock it back in place. Okay, so let's look for our dimensions. So here's the dimensions toolbar. Okay, so we have the dimensions. Think of this as not a wizard, but auto dimensioning. Or you can always drop down. You have more options. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on this. And let's say we want a dimension from center to center. It automatically goes to its center. Okay, so if you don't like its center, you can always right click. Then you can go to first extension and you can say, hey, you know what? I don't want this center. I want its opposite, or the furthest point left or furthest point right. Watch what happens when I click anchor 1. Notice how the extension got moved to the left. Go back. So again, we right clicked, go to extension lines anchor, go to first anchor. You know what? We want the center, so it'll go back to its center. Okay, again, right click, extensions. And if you want to move the opposite one, go to the second one, the second extension on your dimension, go to second extension line, and you can move your anchor. But it always defaults to the center of an arc or a circle. Okay, we'll just leave it alone and have it generate. Now, unfortunately, it defaults to feet. Now, if you go work for a company, they should already have a title block and border template for you to use. And you'll have one for millimeters, one for inches. So we're going to change this dimension. So that's not what we want. We don't want 0.59 feet. So select it. And we can go to the drop down here. And say, hey, we don't want feet, inches. We want millimeters. If you want inches, pick the third option. So we want millimeters. There it is, 180 millimeters. Okay, so I know it's frustrating having to go in and change each dimension at a time. What you can do is just throw in a bunch of dimensions, and then at the end you can go ahead and make your changes. So I'm just going to throw in a few dimensions. I'm not going to do all of them. Let's go ahead and do some diameters here. Let's do a fillet. Okay, so go ahead and throw in a bunch of dimensions. I'm not going to do all of them, and then I'm going to show you how to change them all in one shot. Okay, so let's say you threw in all your dimensions and you're ready to change them to millimeters. Okay, so all you have to do is highlight everything. Just highlight, window capture everything, and then just go here. Don't forget where this drop down is at, and we can change them all to millimeters. It'll do it all in one shot. Again, we window captured everything, and there it is. We moved everything to millimeters. If you wanted to go to inches, pick the third option. That's inches. Let's go back to millimeters. Millimeters, there it is. Okay, a few things about dimensions that you need to know is, what if you want to move things or add things to it? For example, let's say you wanted to move this dimension. We can use these grips, as you can see, these handles. If yours doesn't show up, if your handles doesn't show, if they don't show up for you to make translations on the dimensions or relocate them, you need to go to Tools, Options, go to Tools, Options. Let me collapse these, and we're going to go Mechanical Design. Make sure you hit the plus, go to Drafting, and we're going to go to Manipulators. Now in Manipulators, chances are you don't have these on. So in the Manipulators tab, make sure you're in Drafting, Manipulators tab. Chances are only a few of these are going to be checked. So this is when you're creating the dimension. This is after your dimension is created and placed or positioned. You can then have these handles pop up, or manipulators, by just turning all these on. I don't bother turning these on. I'll just turn all these on and hit OK, and you're going to have all these manipulators come on when you select the dimension. Okay, so for example, I want to put 4 on this one. We have 4 holes. I click on it. Notice we have all these manipulators pop up. So I'm going to click on this downward red arrow to add text. I'm going to go 4x because there are 4 holes with the same diameter. There it is. Okay, I want to put a little lead in front of my text here. So I'm going to select the dimension. And I can either right-click properties, or from here you can go ahead and add the leader. Okay, let me go ahead and extend this. And it did add the leader. I just need to use the manipulator to show it. There it is. There's my little leader right there. Okay, you can also change if you want to use only 1 arrowhead versus 2. Okay, you can right-click properties on the dimension. From here you can change the decimal places, the precision if you like. You can add a tolerance. Okay, so if you want to add tolerances, plus or minus tolerances for examples. If you want to remove one of the arrowheads, and apply. Notice it removed one of the arrowheads by deselecting this option. Also, again, if you want to add an extension like we did earlier, a little extension in front of the text, there it is. And this is for extension lines. Sometimes you want to turn extension lines on or off. Like in this example here, you may want to turn it off. This will turn extension lines on and off. And we have text. If you want to add symbols, right? We currently have 4x, right? Because we have 4 of these holes with the same diameter. So we can actually add symbols from here if we want. We can add text behind it, below it, on top of it. Okay, if you want to change the font of your dimensions. Okay, I usually just leave it alone. Go with the default because it's following a standard, whether it's ANSI, ISO, ASME, or JIS, Japanese standards. If you want to change the text. All right, so go ahead and hit OK. I'm going to grab the text so I can relocate it and use the handle here to show the extension. All right, so that's how you make changes to your dimension. I don't like the way it's showing here. I want to add that little leader. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And again, from here, I'm going to go ahead and add that little extension. There it is. You can also flip the arrows. Just click on the arrowheads and it'll flip it if you like. Okay, so that's one option. Again, just click on the arrow and it'll flip them. Okay, another option is to add center marks. Okay, so if you want to add a center mark, here's a center mark or center line command. There's a center mark. Or if you wanted to auto-generate center marks, you can right-click on the frame properties, and there should be a center mark option. Let's go to View. There it is, center lines, hidden lines. So if you want to turn on hidden lines, or if you want to remove the fillets. So typically in a front, top, or side view, projected view, you don't show fillets. You may show them on an ISO view. So if you can turn off the fillets. Hey, I want to show center lines, right? If you want to show axes, okay, and hit apply, and you'll see it update. And as you can see, it added center marks and it removed the fillets. Okay. Okay, let's go to this one. Right-click properties. You can select more than one. While holding onto the control key, you can select more than one view. Okay, I'm going to remove fillets. I'm going to add center lines. And you'll see it generate center lines. Hit apply. There it is. If you want to add axes for these holes, add an axis, you can just click on axis. Okay. Fillets in an isometric view, it's okay. Typically, you don't put fillets on a front, top, side view, etc. But it's okay if you do it on an ISO view. Okay, so last thing I'm going to discuss. If something ever gets deleted from an assembly, you're going to end up with a broken link. So let me go to my motor base. And you know what? I'm going to delete something that's obvious. Let's say I delete the knuckles. So I'm going to delete the knuckles. Delete the other knuckle. And I want you to see what happens to your drawing. So your drawing knows there's been a change. So if we go back to the drawing, so you're going to notice it's going to want to update, right? So recognize that the knuckles are gone. So we have knuckles in this view and in this view. Notice both those views want to update. So I'm going to, and notice there's a broken sheet icon back here. Let me go ahead and hit update. And these two views that are updating are going to show up as broken views. It's like, hey, something is missing here. Oh, actually it did update. My mistake. So if you were to save all your work, delete your knuckles, and then come back and this showed as a broken view, you can right-click properties. My mistake. I meant to go right-click. Looking for links. Modify links. Here it is. Modify links. So if your view ever breaks a link because you deleted something, go to Modify Links. And here it shows you all the items that it's linked to. So currently, this view is linked to the entire assembly. So I'm going to try and duplicate. I failed this first time around, but let me see if I can duplicate creating a broken link, because it does happen. Let's go back to the motor base assembly. I'm going to hit undo so those knuckles come back. And the knuckles are back. Let's go back to the drawing. Okay, so it's going to update and it'll bring back the knuckles into our views when I update. And update. And you'll see the knuckles regenerate. There they are. Okay, so let me create a view here on the side, and I'm going to intentionally create some broken links. Okay, so I'm going to create a new view. And it'll be an ISO view. I'm going to create an isometric view. Let me go to the motor base assembly. Okay, so let's say you wanted to only do a partial isometric view. So it's common that sometimes there's too much stuff going on and you're asked to just do a partial ISO view. Okay, so while holding on to the control key, I'm going to pick a few items. Okay, let's say I wanted to pick, I'm going to leave out the bracket. Let's say I wanted to pick the support and the screws. And I'm also going to pick the hex nuts on the other side, but I'm going to leave out this portion. Okay, I'm going to leave it out intentionally, as you can see. Okay, and I'll pick a flat surface to generate the view. So notice that everything I picked got generated. All right, and I want to see what is this view linked to. If I wanted to see what is this view linked to, what items, you can just right click, go to ISO view object, and go to modify links. Okay, notice it gives me a list of all the items. I can hit on preview and it'll show me a list of all the items that it's linked to. So if I want, I can remove items from here. Let's say, you know what, let me leave out the hex nuts. Okay, I can remove them. And when I hit OK, this will update. Well, actually I need to hit update. Notice here I can right click update, or I can just update from the icon. And it'll update and remove the hex nuts. Okay, let me see if I can get it to break the link. I'm going to go back to motor base, and I'm going to intentionally delete the bolts. So this is common when you're deleting something and later replace it with the new part number. Let's say instead of steel bolts, you decide to go with aluminum, for example, and you're going to replace these bolts with a different part number. So I'm going to delete these bolts. Okay. Go back to your drawing. And I'm trying to get it to break the link, see if I can get it to do it. I'm going to right click update. Notice it's a broken sheet. Okay, I'm going to right click update. And notice it's broken. Now the other ones were able to update because I wasn't linked to the individual pieces. I was not linked to the individual bolts, nuts. I was linked to the assembly. So the assembly was able to update, say, oh yeah, the hardware has been removed, the bolts. The hex nuts are still there on the other side. But the assembly was able to update. But this view was not able to update. These screws, I took them out. These bolts, I took them out from the assembly. Notice here it's broken. It's like, hey, something's wrong here. It's broken. So I have to go in, right click, go to modify links. And it's telling me, hey, something's wrong. It's giving me a warning. Yeah, as you can see here, the view has broken its link, and there it is. These used to be the screws or the bolts. So I can go ahead and now remove them. And when I hit OK, then this will update and it'll relink itself. Hit OK. Notice it's already relinking itself, and then I can update, and now it'll remove, when I update, it'll remove the bolts while staying linked. Okay. All right, so just wanted to show you how to relink or fix links. There's a lot more stuff I'll show you on the lecture for the drafting workbench. Okay, so now you can go to File, Save Management. Your drawing is linked to the assembly. Okay, so let's go to Drawing. Oh, that's the template. Go to Drawing 1. Okay, there's my drawing. You can go to Save As. And if I want to save it onto my desktop or flash drive, I'll create a folder for it. Create a new folder. And I'll call it Motor Base Okay, and I'll save my drawing. You want to call it motor base assembly. And I'll save it as a .cat drawing. Save, and I can go ahead and make a copy of your motor base assembly, top assembly, right? And you want to put it in the same folder. Save as. And we want to save a copy of that on our new folder. Let's go to the desktop, motor base assembly. And I'm going to save it and propagate. And notice it'll send a copy of all my new files, or I should say copies of all the files involving the motor base. It's not including this drawing template that's been left out. And then you can hit OK. All right, so end of video.